Hello.
Hello అండి.
Yeah, I can hear me, right?
యాహ్!
Can you see my screen or I need to share it again?
నాట్ యెట్.
No, not. I am just turned on this.
యాహ్! ఐ
It's
గాట్ ఇట్ నౌ. యాహ్!
the V1. Let me see how it is going to be. Okay, my previous recording is getting conducted. Okay. Then alrighty. Are you from Hyderabad or which place are you?
యాహ్!
Yeah,
హైదరాబాద్‌లో.
అవునా?
యాహ్!
ఇద్దరు హైదరాబాదేనా? మీరు స్వప్న ఇద్దరిది?
ఆ! ఇద్దరం హైదరాబాద్‌లోనే ఉంటామండి.
Mhm. Right. You stay in
హ్మ్.
Hyderabad now or
నేను లేను. నేనిక్కడ ఉన్నా ఆస్ట్రేలియాలో.
అదే
తను
అదే
మాత్రం
టైమ్ జోన్స్ అక్కడ.
యాహ్!
ఆల్రైట్. Okay. In implementation phase, typically we do develop the code, right? So what it will happen in the let's check this one. ఎక్కడ మీది హైదరాబాద్ ఎక్కడండి ఎటు సైడ్?
పేరెంట్స్ అక్కడ నారాయణగూడలో ఉంటారు.
నారాయణగూడనా?
యాహ్!
ఇన్‌లాస్
యాహ్!
స్వప్న
మీరు
వాళ్ళది.
హైదరాబాదా?
అవునా?
సారీ?
వాళ్ళది కూడా ఏరియా అదేనా?
స్వప్న వాళ్ళది ఉప్పల్‌లో ఉంటారు వాళ్ళు.
ఆహ్, ఇద్దరిది దగ్గరేనా?
యాహ్! దగ్గర దగ్గరలో ఉంటారు.
మాది
మీరండి? మీరు
మాది
హైదరాబాదేనా?
క్వైట్ హైదరాబాదే. బట్ మాది క్వైట్ దిస్ వన్ మల్లంపేట అని మీకు ఐడియా ఉందో లేదు. వెన్ వాస్ ఇట్ దట్ యూ
ఆహా!
మూవ్డ్ టు ఆస్ట్రేలియా? రిలొకేటెడ్ వెన్ వాస్ ఇట్? అదే క్వైట్ లాంగ్ టైమ్.
ఆ!
వెన్ వాస్ ఇట్?
అవును.
ఐ థింక్ బాచుపల్లి ఐడియా ఉండే
ప్లీజ్.
ఉంటుంది కదా!
బాచుపల్లి తెలుసు. ఐడియా ఉంది. ఓకే.
బాచుపల్లికి ఇది 5, 6 కిలోమీటర్స్ అన్నమాట టువర్డ్స్ ఔటర్ రింగ్ రోడ్. అంటే మాకు బాచుపల్లి
ఓకే. ఓకే.
సిగ్నల్స్ వచ్చి మాకొక 4 కిలోమీటర్స్ ఉంటుంది. ఇదివరకు నిజాంపేట అని అక్కడ ఉండేవాళ్ళు. అని మాది.
నిజాంపేట్ తెలుసు. ఓకే.
నిజాంపేట నుంచి
హ్మ్.
బాచుపల్లి. అంటే అంతకు ముందర మధురానగర్, అమీర్పేటలో ఉండేవాళ్ళం. అక్కడ
ఓకే.
మా
ఓకే.
ఇన్‌లాస్ అక్కడే ఉంటారు. దెన్ వి మూవ్డ్ ఆన్ టు దిస్ సైడ్ అన్నమాట. స్కూలింగ్ అండ్ కాలేజెస్‌కి బావుంటుంది ఇటు ఏరియా అని. నిజాంపేట సైడ్.
అవును. ఓకే. నిజాంపేట్‌లో చాలా కాలేజెస్ ఉంటాయి కదా!
నిజాంపేట యాక్చువల్లీ బాచుపల్లి కాలేజెస్ ఎక్కువుంటాయి. బట్
ఓకే.
నిజాంపేట వాస్ ద ఫార్దెస్ట్ పాయింట్ అప్పుడు కొంచెం లివబుల్ అని ఒక 10, 15 ఇప్పుడు ఇంకా ఇటు టువర్డ్స్ దిస్ సైడ్ పెరిగిపోతుంది. మల్లంపేట ఇంకా ట్రాఫిక్ ఇటువైపు అంతా అవుతుంది.
ఓహో! అవునా?
నిజాంపేట ఇక్కడ అంటే బికాస్ అంటే దానికి
పాపులేషన్
ఓవరాల్
పెరిగిపోతుంది.
కనెక్టివిటీ.
సిటీ పెరుగుతుంది.
అంటే ఓవరాల్ కనెక్టివిటీ ఉంటుందండి ఇక్కడికి. లైక్ ఇఫ్ ఐ హావ్ టు గో టు ఐ కెన్
ఓకే.
టేక్ ఔటర్ రింగ్ రోడ్
హుహుహు.
అండ్ ఐల్ రీచ్ ఇన్ అనదర్ అన్ అవర్ ఆర్ సో. మా హస్బెండ్‌కి కూడా ఇక్కడ దగ్గర. అందుకని ఇటు మూవ్ అయ్యాం బేసికల్లీ.
ఆహా! ఓకే.
స్కూల్స్ కూడా ఇక్కడ అన్ని కొంచెం ఎక్కువే ఉన్నాయి అందుకని. అదే ఔటర్ రింగ్ రోడ్
ఓకే.
ఇది ఉంటుంది కదా! ఎందుకంటే సిటీలో ఇప్పుడు కష్టమైపోతుంది డ్రైవ్ చేయడం నా వల్ల కావట్లేదు.
అవునండి. చాలా కష్టం.
టు గో టు 5
బట్ అట్‌లీస్ట్
కిలోమీటర్స్
ఇప్పుడు
కొంచెం
ట్రైన్స్
హారిబుల్
ఉన్నాయి.
ఇప్పుడు. సాటర్‌డే ఇప్పుడు స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది. ట్రాఫిక్ మాకొక రోడ్.
ఆ! సాటర్‌డే, సండే కూడా చాలా ట్రాఫిక్ ఉంటాయి
ఇదో
తెలుసా?
హారిబుల్. ఐ వండరింగ్ అసలు ఇంతమంది జనాలుంటున్నారు ఎవరు ఇంట్లో వంటలు చేసుకోవట్లేదని వి గాట్ ఫెడ్ అప్ అండ్ వి స్టార్టెడ్ గివింగ్ అప్ అసలు గోయింగ్ టు ఔట్ సైడ్ ఇంకా. వెళ్తే ఏమైనా ఓఆర్ఆర్ సైడ్‌నే.
అవును.
నాకు
అక్కడ
ఓఆర్ఆర్
పీస్‌ఫుల్
కంఫర్టబుల్
ఉంటుందా అటు సైడు?
ఎందుకంటే లైక్ 40 కిలోమీటర్స్ ఐ కెన్ డ్రైవ్ వితిన్ హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్. బట్ అక్కడి నుంచి ఒక 5 కిలోమీటర్స్ నాకు ట్రాఫిక్ ఏరియా అన్నమాట. విప్రో సిగ్నల్స్ నుంచి పెరిగిపోయింది. అక్కడి నుంచి
ఎక్కడ
అక్కడికెళ్ళాలంటే ఒక హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్
ఆఫీస్‌కెళ్తారు.
పడుతుంది. ఆఫీస్ అయితే. అక్కడి నుంచి అక్కడికి హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్ పడుతుంది నాకు. హార్డ్‌లీ 5, 6 కిలోమీటర్స్ ట్రాఫిక్ క్రౌడెడ్ ఏరియా. దానికి నాకు ఒక హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్ పడుతుంది నాకు. మార్నింగ్ ఎళ్ళాలంటే. అదర్‌వైజ్ నాకు ఆల్‌మోస్ట్ 40 కిలోమీటర్స్ వస్తది ఇక్కడి నుంచి. నాకు 20 కిలోమీటర్స్ హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్ పడతది. 20-30 కిలోమీటర్స్. ఆ ఒక్క 5, 10 కిలోమీటర్స్‌కే అంత టైం పడుతుంది నాకు. హ్మ్.
హ్మ్. హ్మ్. ఓకే. ఓకే.
వాటికి వెళ్ళాలి అనేసి. ఓకే. ఐ థింక్
అదే. హ్మ్.
డన్ ఆల్‌మోస్ట్ స్టార్ట్. వాట్ ఆర్ ద అప్రూవల్స్? ఇప్పుడు మీకేదైనా మెట్రో అనుకోండి ఉప్పల్ సైడ్ మేము గూడా మారాలి అటువైపే. ద ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఈస్
అదే మెట్రో అయిపోయింది కాబట్టి.
మారాలండి మేము కుకట్పల్లి ప్రాపర్కి వెళ్ళాల్సిందే ఇప్పుడు మళ్ళీ ఎందుకంటే మా పాప స్కూల్స్ అవి అక్కడే అండ్ ఎవ్రీవన్ ఈజ్ సేయింగ్ ఇప్పుడు దట్ ఈస్ నారాయణగూడ సైడ్ ఇప్పుడు కోచింగ్ సెంటర్స్ అన్నీ అక్కడే కదా ఉన్నాయి మంచివి.
అవునవునవును.
ఆల్ రైట్ దెన్ what is okay test design, test cases, scenarios during the test team and all the build team will develop the code drops into QA and that dev status build deployment plan. And second, this will be under our implementation phase. Now what is our testing phase? We will be executing test execution, test results, defect capturing, all this stuff. We will defect closure, ensuring that defect is assigned to the developer and then defect is fixed and then defect is tracked and all that.
ఓకే.
Right, defect is closed and retesting the defects, all this stuff will come under part of testing high level activities, right? In detail, we will do other
Yeah.
activities also, but these are all the high level activities like, defect tracking, defect closure, executing all the test cases, and then retesting the defects, all this stuff will come under. So end of the phase, what are all the deliverables? End of the phase, what are all the deliverables for defect testing phase? Okay, for testing design phase and deliverables, it's after design phase. We have implementation phase. Didn't take copy, I think, implementation or development. These are all the deliverables, right? Finally, develop report, deployment plan and all. So in testing phase, I think somewhere we have mentioned also. Parallelly. Is out of the context. Test cases, authoring, test execution, test monitoring, test control, documenting the test result, defect tracking, okay, defect tracing, defect life cycle, like that defect life cycle basically, okay, defect closure, defect tracing, testing the defects. Defect closure, right? So in testing phase, we'll do all these test cases execution. Test case authoring should be done during the development phase only, if you assume. Okay, testing team environment setup, test data identification, test data loads and all, and test case creation. Test case authoring or creation. The moment you enter into testing phase, okay, we are ready to execute the test cases, even in waterfall model also. Okay. So
Okay. Yeah.
even in waterfall model also. So the moment SIT is done, then you should be ready with the test cases. You are going to test execution, test monitoring, documenting the test result, defect tracing, retesting the defect. So all these things. So what are all the deliverables? Then final deliverables for us, it is the artifacts. When do you say, hey, my testing is good, and it is the exit criteria, what we discussed, right? Final criteria.
Yeah.
You are going to certify as a SIT or testing person, QA person. We are going to certify, hey, this software is working or this piece of project is working as expected based on what? Test results. Test results, pass or fail, along with the test evidence. Test results uploaded in any of the test tools like, ALM or whatever it is, like, test results, okay? Along with the test evidence capture, right? Test evidence is very important. Like, hey, this is working fine, this piece of work that I have worked and this is working fine and all. Your defect reports. All these are the test artifacts basically, okay? Test plan and all, everything will be there, but test result and the defect report is the important part of testing phase, right? Amongst all these things, this is the testing phase. Now, what it will go into the evolution or implementation phase? Evolution or implementation phase, how do we go? Okay, once you certified that, hey, this piece of work is working fine and all, they will go with the deployment of the flow, pre-prod deployment. UR testing will be carried out, or pre-production testing will be carried out, right?
Yeah.
And hierarchies, it could be, sometimes it could be directly to the prod deployment only if it is a kind of hot fixes and all that stuff. So UR deployment or prod deployment will be done, okay? So this kind of building plan and all, this is build the prod deployment plan. So we will say it is a cab fix right now in this cab fixes. We do call it, it's in the defect fixes and all that stuff. We do say it is a cab. Cab is something like, production deployment. I forgot the full this one, but nowadays we are referring it as a cab only. Okay. So that's a cab is something like, when you are going with the production release, prod deployment plan and all. So that will be done once. I mean, like, they'll certify it for the higher, and then enhancements, CRs, anything, bug fixes, it will come in the production. That will be the end of this one, enhancements or CRs and all. Okay, this is the entire waterfall life cycle. Get it, Andy? I think we discussed off track so many things also we covered, but this is the finally each and everything, like what are the deliverables in that. So what is the flaw in this amongst all these things? I would say what is the limitation
Time.
rather than a flaw?
Okay, yeah.
Fix
Time.
the design document,
Sorry?
right? Freezing the requirements. In all these changes, sorry, you are able to see?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
So amongst all these things, what did we observe? While developing it, initially thought technically it is feasible. While developing, you find that, it is not a feasible requirement. Or business analyst, when we are doing this design implementation and all, this fellow is free. Or the client might not have given all the requirements. He is not that good. So what he might not have given all the requirements at one go. After developing, he has encountered some issues and all. During these 3 phases, he might have encountered some issues, so he wanted to add a requirement. But you already
Okay.
developed it based on the design document, right? So we are not to accept this requirement until this entire process completes. Okay, that is one. And if something is there, something was incorrectly captured by the business analyst, okay, and when will you get to know you developed the design documents and all? When you are coding itself, all these things, the chunk of requirements and all you frozen and all, when you are coding itself, you figured it out, the developer. Okay, a flaw in the requirement or a limitation in the requirement, or it's a design document, something that is not feasible, like, we have actually captured it in a wrong way. Then you will have to go all the way back. You need to design and all. You will have to change the requirements. Whatever you developed, all this will be scrapped. It will be scrapped until right. Or the utmost defect finding is, I mean, at least in QA it is fine. When you have actually find it in a testing environment, when you are doing some kind of ad hoc testing, or you are going as per the design and all, after it is developed and all, you find a defect in the design itself. This is the frequent scenarios that you might encounter. Developer will say, hey, it is in the design, it is written like that, so I have developed it. But the design or your requirement itself is an incorrect or inappropriately captured requirement, or not a feasible requirement, then they will say that it is a requirement flaw. All this effort would be wasted, right? You will have to capture the enhancement or requirement, and then we will need to wait until this cycle is completed. All these things will happen. So a lot of time will be wasted. So there is no agile or flexibility for the customer that we are giving here in the waterfall model. Whom, for the sake of whom we are working, for the sake of customer only we are working. And the most important thing is you will be having a product, and it will be waited until kind of, say you have given a lot of requirements and all this entire process needs to be completed within 3 months. Your entire project is. Okay. Say an example, at the least to least. Until 3 months, customer will not be having any visibility what is it going on. You might say that, design is happening, implementation is happening, and until the testing side, he will not be able to see the working software. He will not have, you developed certain screens, you developed the back end based on the design and all. Okay, you might give something, but implementation, like, they are going the development. And here, what we call the business analyst, developer is, our testers are frequently in touch with the business analyst, or if there is some miscommunication happens also, they will be going, and customer will not have the visibility to view what is happening, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of long period. Okay, there is no agility that was given basically. Customer will not be given any kind of visibility. And at the end of this, testing and the production, before going to the production, until unless in the evaluation phase, only in the pre-prod, he will get to know, hey, the screen color is not good or the screen is not good and all. Then he will come back and he will get to change these things, right? This is all the cycle
Okay.
wasted. Okay. In pre-prod, he gets some idea, or he will say that, okay, this is not what I expected. The requirements were incorrectly captured or the business. And if there is any gap between the business analyst and the customer also, we all will be screwed, right? Because here there is no direct interaction with the client directly, right?
Okay.
The
Okay.
business
Yeah.
analyst will be the liaison for all this, like, your pre-prod date is say that, out of 3 months project, like, 1 month, after 2 months only your pre-prod came. So this all will took kind of, okay, how much ever the customer, business analyst has documented the results, he went back to the customer, took that approvals and all that stuff. But later when it comes into the real production or real pre-prod stuff and all during the UAT, customer finds out, this is not appropriate, or it could be have been enhanced better and all. He will not be having much choice to give that enhancements or kind of incorporating the ideas and all based on seeing this product, right? He has to wait for the 2 months, and after 2 months of effort, he will be seeing that, okay, this is not what I expected. I wanted to enhance a bit more and all. So your 2 months of effort, again, you are going through all these things, right?
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, we have to go through everything if the. Okay. Yeah.
Right, and again, the enhancements and all. So in the pre-prod, like, it's a 1 month, last 2 months, 2 months is going to be wasted, right? For a simple change, say an example of background change, or because he will not be able to see the working product until certain period. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is kind of frozen. So, I mean, customer will be coming into the picture during the requirement analysis and during the pre-prod until design, implementation, testing. Of course, customer will indirectly involve approving your test design documents, sign-offs are there. Then you will come back and say, if, why this could have been enhanced. And you will go back and say, okay, you have approved this design document, then why did you approve this? So we need this much amount of time to handle this, right? You
Yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and the test cases also similarly. He wants to add some other test scenarios. Okay, maybe like,
Yeah. Yeah.
got some other requirement. We'll say that, okay, this is test plan is approved, right? It was frozen and approved. Now we cannot change until this is done and all. Similarly, the development. So earlier days, what used to happen, like, only the developers we used to have ideally the higher hand, because they will discover a lot of things during the developer, and they will go back and say, okay, this is not the feasible thing and all. So whatever you did for this entire 2 months of work will used to be scrapped. We have seen a lot of things like that, once we have done during our earlier days. At least I started my career in 2004, and where Agile was there, but Scrum was not so prevalent and all. So in some of the projects, after we performed the testing and also, there were many times, like, go live was a big achievement back then, like, because during the pre-production itself, they used to wake up and they used to say, oh, this is not what we expected. So until then, whatever you developed, you tested, will not go into the production. So what is the point if that is not going into the production? This entire effort and cost is wasted, right?
Yeah.
Again, they are rewriting the code. Okay. So in order to avoid all these flaws, they implemented the Scrum. So Agile is a kind of Agile, usually we call it as an Agile project. So Scrum is one of the techniques of Agile. I'm not going to touch upon completely on Agile only, like, because extreme programming is one of the concepts, and then Scrum is
Okay.
different concepts. Stop me if I'm going to deviate because the topic and all. So this is a Scrum where what will happen in Scrum typically, but remember, Scrum is one of the techniques of Agile. Don't get confused with Agile.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Scrum
Okay.
is
Okay.
one of the techniques of Agile. So Agile
Yeah.
is kind of iterative process. Okay, iterative models, but this is kind of what they experimented, they implemented, then they found that okay, this is working fine. So many of the people are sticking with Scrum. In Scrum also, it is not completely they're following Scrum. If you ask me, as you know, it's CSM certified or someone CSPO, people would say this is not Scrum, if it's process wise. But at least it is much better than waiting the longer time for 2 to 3 months, right?
Yeah, right.
The minimum project
Okay.
used to be 3 months and all. So
Mm-hmm.
the customer said, hey, we will not be having much vision and all. So until and all, then they will come up with the process of closing agile process, agile projects. Agile is nothing but your iterative model deployment.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So instead of view show or rely on the documents many, like, here also, so it is a myth that, if you're not having any documents, you should not follow any documents in the Scrum. It is a myth. Everything should be documented. Again, we should have still the test cases. Again, we should have the test plan, but test strategy also. We need to have everything. It is not that, people will try to bypass, saying that earlier days, like we used to face this a lot without the Scrum Master and all. This is agile, we can change the requirement at any point of time. Okay. But it is not that you can change any point of time. What is it in agile? So with these techniques, they come with the Scrum. Okay, t-shirt sizing or extreme programming, all this kind of, different testing techniques are there. Scrum, a Kanban is there, Kanban model will have a different techniques. This is all kind of trial and error. So out of that, Scrum is one of the techniques as part of Agile. Okay, here also we need to have the clear-cut documentation. But what did they do in the Scrum? They what we call, they divided this into entire large amount of time frame, 3 months, into smaller chunks. Okay, in Scrum,
Yeah.
documentation should be there. However, they divided this into smaller chunks, all the requirements into smaller chunks. Okay.
Okay.
So initially, this 3 months period is there. In Scrum, what do we call it? This 3 months period? We do call it as a, suppose, if it is a 3 months project, okay, we do call it as a PI, product increment, or a quarterly level planning. Okay, quarterly level planning. Say that's a 3 months, for every 3 months, like we will be having a product increment planning. So where they will document all the requirements of your project. Okay, your BRD, whatever it is there, it is going to be in the product requirements. But what do we call it as a product backlog? These are the important terms. Requirement documents, or whatever you are calling it as, right? This we do call it as a product backlog. Further, what do they do? It is this will rely with the product owner. Product owner plays a key role in Scrum. Who knows for that entire product, what are all my requirements in this 3 months project? Say that 3 month project. Okay, that would be kind of a backlog. Fine. Here, what the Scrum Master will do in conjunction with the the development and testing, and based on the product owner priority, all these product backlog requirements will be prioritized. Okay, this product owner is responsible in going back to the developer, a business, and understand the priority of the requirements. Hey, we cannot give you all these three requirements at the end of 3 months. You do not want, at the end of 3 months. Let's prioritize the requirements that the product owner, in conjunction with the business, will prioritize the requirements.
Okay.
From the backlog. Okay, PO will prioritize the requirements in conjunction with business. He will prioritize and he will come up with the smaller requirements, which we do call it as a user story. User stories typically would be of kind of, the story points techniques will be having and all. So Scrum Master, what will do in conjunction with the product owner, they will prepare the sprint planning. sprint is one term we will be calling it as. What do we mean by sprint? That is the duration, okay? The maximum sprint duration could be, initially it was so difficult for me to understand 11 and 12. During 2011 and 12, I started working on the Scrum methodology. There were no people
Okay.
to give that KD and all, what is a sprint and all, only one Scrum Master, what are their roles, responsibilities. There was no product owner, only dev lead used to do. So, I mean, like, it was so difficult. Like, all the project you will have to complete within a month and all. I think in 2009 only, back then in 2009 or 2008, I just started working on it. But, because there was no clarity at that time. No one has the clarity. Someone has done some Scrum certification. They put that guy as a Scrum owner who doesn't have any knowledge on the product. Who is having the product knowledge? Again, the developer or architect, he doesn't know. He only used to come back with the functionally, he doesn't have that, knowledge. Then there is no product owner kind of stuff at that time. Okay, there used to be a product backlog. So architecture always try to push back because it's all new for us. We were all really skeptic because it's kind of 3-month project. You're asking us to do it in 1 month. Like we need to do day and night. But it is not at that time because Scrum Master was not diligent or product owner was not diligent to prioritize the requirements and divide it into the chunks. Okay. The sprints. They started thinking even the product procurement of the license, feasibility study, and all that they clapped into the sprint itself. All the preconditions and the pre-work also. Okay. But however, in terms of the delivery standpoint, like, in terms of revenue and all, that is, or in terms of customer also, that is much more beneficial when compared to earlier because we tried the same product in all the project with the .NET. Initially, we thought, .NET is kind of feasible this, and then we started the development and all, architecture and all. What just happened, and later we found that, he found that, customer was not so happy. I think it's one of the clients like Johnson & Johnson. He said that he has to provide, pay for the license, basically for a SQL Server and all, Microsoft SQL Server and all. I said that, then he came out and said he doesn't have that much budget. Then they scrapped the dev team. And what did they, that architecture team or the project manager, then he decided, okay, let's go ahead with the, what we call open source systems like Java and all. At that time it was coming. So we'll go with the MySQL Server rather than going with the SQL Server. This is the advantage that I felt. They scrapped the entire dev team, but they retained the test team because the test team already has tested that. They knew the functionalities. It is a hardly, change of the technology, MySQL only. So they can just write few of the queries and all. So they retained the test team. They retained us. But they started again, rewriting the code in terms of Java. So they scrapped this architecture guy, a .NET architecture, and they had a Java guy, and then they started doing that and all that stuff. That kind of commit used to be there, but now it is much more streamlined because it evaluated with period of time. So sprint, what we call it as a sprint planning. A Scrum Master is responsible for sprint planning. What do we mean by sprint planning? There is a product planning, product increment planning, and these 3 months, which consists of, again, this backlog, product backlog, which consists of the requirements, all the requirements of the project. Okay, back to this. All the requirements of the projects it consists. Okay. And for this quarter, like suppose I will have to deploy 20 or 30 tables, which are important to consume the data. Finally, all these tables, why are we deploying? We are actually fine-tuning the data. We are doing some massaging on the data. We are doing all kind of transformation data and all, so that the reports, it will generate the beautiful report. So when a user wants to generate the report, you don't have to do all those calculations and all that time. You have the readily available data, refined data, where you simply can plug in with a minimal customization, minimal front-end process. You can just, present that report, right? That is why our main, this data warehouse testing is revolving around data marts and all that, or data lakes and all. So it's in a prediction. analytics and prediction purpose, the reporting, custom users wants to see the reports. So earlier, if you have to develop the report in VB5 or crystal reports or something like that, right? What it used to happen, a lot of code used to be written in a reporting purpose. Now it's a Tableau and all. It's a simple plugin tool. Of course, they do certain customization. They will do some kind of aggregations and all, grouping and all that stuff. But mostly, it will be all the data will be fine-tuned and stored in the views format where they will hide the entire complexity and all. So the display of the reports, the response time will be reduced and leveraged. It's going to be displayed. Okay. So that purpose we are doing all this. Okay, and back to our Scrum, because it's a theory, I'll go here and there, like, bear with me that Scrum Master is responsible for sprint planning. In what way that sprint planning should be done? Sprint planning, out of all this product backlog, PO will prioritize the requirement in conjunction with the developer. Then, okay, for this sprint at least, you don't have to develop all these 3 months of product. The sprint is again duration. So the duration could last from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Again, this 2 weeks to 3 weeks is inclusive of your testing also. Okay.
So testing, developing, and implementing, testing
your
and design phase, is it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Your
So requirement, design
test
phase.
case, authoring, everything. 2 weeks. Okay. So we have to come up with in the sprint planning, the sprint duration, typically it is not even 3 weeks also nowadays. They are giving it as only for the 2 weeks. 2 weeks for development. But there will be phase 0 also will be having sprint 0. Sprint 0, what do? They do all this prep work. If it is for, testing, it's a development, what is this, environment procurement, and in sprint 0, you will come up with some test planning, test cases and all. That also you can just incorporate in one particular sprint and all. Test planning, test cases, test work, everything will be captured in part of user story. We do call it as a user story. Okay. So 2 weeks inclusive of development, testing, and then acceptance. Okay. So how
acceptance means
acceptance will come to that. What do we mean by acceptance?
Yeah.
Okay. So this user story, how the requirements will be captured from the backlog requirement product backlog. From the product backlog, they will divide into smaller chunks. Okay. And then this user story will contain the acceptance criteria. We do call it as an acceptance criteria mostly. So acceptance criteria will have this user story requirements, requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 3. So here, the sprint meetings are more important. Backlog refinement meetings are more important. They will decide who will facilitate this sprint planning meetings and backlog refinement meetings. All these will be facilitated by the Scrum Master. Okay. With the Scrum team. So here in Scrum team, although we are testers, we are one Scrum team. Who are all the Scrum team? Then part of Scrum team, development team, testing team, and product owner, of course, will be support team. Everyone will be part of your platform team or will be part of your Scrum team. Okay. So everything like, separate user stories will be created, a smaller chunks. And for this user story, the weight is, okay, again, it is given in choice with first of all, the prioritization should be given to the product owner. Okay, he will, in conjunction with the business, he will prioritize the requirements. And for that, the user stories will be created. User stories will be created by who? The product owner.
By product owners.
Okay, product owner will come up with the acceptance criteria. What do we mean by acceptance criteria? After you create the user story, hey, these are all the requirements for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. The maximum size of the user story should not exceed beyond 5. Story.
Okay.
5 story points or 10 story points. Wait is. I'll tell you what is a story point. Story point is typically like 1, 3, 5, and 8 story points. It would spill over to the next sprint. A story point is something like hours, number of hours that we are calculating. Typically, 1 story point is 8 hours. You think it has. Okay. 3 story points is 24 hours. If you go in detail with the Scrum, they will say that, no, this is incorrect. This is depending on the complexity only. But ideally, like, now people started used to this because it's kind of trial and error. Scrum is all trial and error. Then people say, hey, this is not working out, the amount of effort that you are putting into. So the task you will create under the user story, where you will burn on the hours and all. So this is the user story point approach. Okay. So based on that, if it is a simple user story, then we'll say, hey, this is one story point, or this the 3-story point approach. And you will also having a saying how much, if it is a testing user story, that how much time it will take for you to create the test execution and all, you'll come up and say, then hey, this is a kind of this many what we need 2-story points or 3-story points, or something like, to test this effort, how much effort that we are going to burn for this particular user story. Okay. Acceptance criteria is something like your requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 3, that will be mentioned by this one. Okay. This will be done during the sprint plan. What needs to be pulled from the backlog and what needs to be done. So after these 2 weeks, you are done with the testing, you are done with, your everything and all. Then sprint meetings typically will go with, story point approach. What are you going to do out of faculty knowledge? And then there will be daily stand-ups in the Scrum. This is more important thing. People would say, why do you want, daily stand-up every day? Because we have seen certain things that, in waterfall model, you don't know hardly who is the developer also. It is typically in a traditional way, like, dev lead is going to interact, dev lead will discuss, and there might be sometimes the developer will change. You will log a defect and it goes to the developer and all. But Scrum will not work because it's a shorter duration, right? You need to understand each and every developer. Or similarly, they need to understand each and every. You might say what will be there, every day the progress will be in the daily standards, right? So daily standards are more to facilitate or provide the interaction among the team. Okay, interaction among the team. Not only for the status call.
Okay.
Okay. But daily, if you are actually, even if you do not have any status, also you need to participate in the daily stand-up. That's the mandatory. That is what is expected. You say that there is no status, but you understand, like, what is, everyone wants to identify their workload, understand the workload. If someone is looking for help, then obviously a Scrum Master or product owner or QA person, they will just leverage that person also, right? So or if you have any blockers, impediments, we do call. Okay, you stuck with some feasibility, not deployment. Okay, this platform team will pitch in. So this are platform team will pitch in or development team will pitch in. These are the typical daily stand-ups. So daily stand-ups typically happen from 15 minutes to ideal time is 15 minutes. But yeah, sometimes people will discuss, they will go off board, they will go discuss and all that things. Okay, but they can discuss it one-on-one also. So what did I do today in daily stand-ups? Okay, what am I planning to do?
Yeah.
Tomorrow? Any impediments? Blockers? You're looking for any help and something like that. The things that we can be discussed in the calls and all, because earlier emails and all, email is also fine. I would recommend either after discussing with the, in the call, if you find any solution and all, put it in email after discussion in the call. But many of the times, if you try to explain the issue in the email itself, they will take it in a different way. Okay, so it's better to get onto the call, discuss, and then, write in a confirmation email for the same. Okay, daily stand-ups, right? So what will happen? What is the acceptance? After you are done, developer is done. After these 2 weeks, what will happen? Sprint demos will be conducted. Meaning, you will involve the customer, a demo. This is the working software. This is only for this particular requirement. Okay, these are the test results. And a tester or a developer is responsible for demoing it to the business in conjunction with the product owner. Product owner will accept that basically. Okay. in the sprint demos, typically product owner will accept that. Sometimes he might pull the business or he might not, but product owner has to approve that working software, saying that, hey, this is fine, this is what the requirement is. Okay, and later he might go back to the customer client and then say. So product owner in conjunction, ideally, I mean developer sprint demos, dev lead or QA lead will give the